everyone, and welcome to the 30-Day Summit, where Russell Brunson has brought together a collection of his top 2 Comma Club and 8-figure award winners to share with you how they would literally survive and begin to rebuild their business in just 30 days if they lost it all. My name is Bailey Richard, and I'm delighted now to be speaking with Dan Henry. Dan is the founder of GetClients.com. He specializes in selling digital products online and has done multiple 7-figure online courses. He is one of the top 3 Expert Secrets affiliates, a Dream Car winner, and he broke the record for the fastest 2 Comma Club winner at the time. So Dan, welcome to the summit.
How you doing?
Doing great. It's exciting to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay, now you are just one of those guys who's straight down to business. That's exactly what you did in your 30-day plan, and that's exactly what we're going to do here in this interview. So to start, I'd love to give people an overview of your first 2 weeks. Primarily, your main strategy is to create a Facebook group that you're going to fill with prospective clients and then sell them something on a webinar. Now, we're going to talk about all of that in sequence, but my first question is, why would you be focusing on Facebook as opposed to so many other platforms out there?
Well, because assuming we have no money, right? That's the assumption. Clearly, if we had a bankroll, I would just run ads and crush it. But if we're assuming that we have no money, to me, and I'm sure you could do I've seen people go on LinkedIn and network and get webinar registrations and get people to join their group, and there's all that as well. But the way that I did it, I actually lived this. I lived, the 0 to 30 days, 6 figures. I'm basically recounting what happened in my life. So what I did was I created a Facebook group around a particular topic. And I went out and I made sure to give value, and I baited people. I did what I call profile bait, where I baited people into joining my group. So if you see me, give out some sort of awesome tip in another group, what's the first thing you do when somebody says something, either anything engaging? It could be valuable, it could be funny, it could be offensive, it could be a variety of things. You do what? You click on their name and you go check them out, right? So on my profile image, or my cover image, right dead in the center, so you can see it on mobile and everything, is a call to action to join my Facebook group. Now, I find that people are much more engaged in a Facebook group than in an email list, especially if you welcome them and you engage and all that. And so you build super warm traffic super fast. And I read a book one time. It's a very popular book called Ask by Ryan Levesque. And while I think the book is genius, I'm always been an innovator, and I always like to take things and condense them and make them work faster. And to me, the process in that book was far too long to figure out what you need to figure out, meaning what your audience wants to buy. So I came up with this way, which was vastly shorter. And my big strategy here was not what are you struggling with? Because that's the big question everybody always asks. What are you struggling with? I don't think that's the right question, because you're asking what they're struggling with, and then you're assuming what to create that they're interested in. If you just say, what do you want to learn? Now you know exactly what they want to learn, what they're willing to pay for. Because if somebody's willing to, if 100 people are willing to attend something for free, 1 or 2 are willing to pay for it in greater detail. And you only need 1 to 2% conversion rate on an auto webinar to become a millionaire. Mine converts to 2%. And I went from a tiny little house to a freaking water mansion in 2 years with a 2% conversion rate. So, I upgraded my lifestyle tremendously with 2%. Like, that's all you need is 2%. You can even do it with 1%. It'll just take you a little bit longer. So I find that the big question is, what do you want to learn? Because people, they don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. So you got to figure out what they want. So I just think the narrative should be a little bit different, and that's how I did it.
Okay, so in your plan, you mentioned that after you get a few hundred people into your Facebook group, you're going to announce that you're going to do a free training on the skill that everybody wants to learn. So what's the long-term strategy here? So why are you doing a webinar or a training when you don't even have a product developed yet?
Because that's the only way to sell a product, in my opinion. Why would you waste so much time creating one when you don't even know if it's going to sell? And to me, if you can't sell it, you can't teach it, right? Because think what makes a good teacher? Selling. right? You have to sell them on taking action. You have to sell them on completing the lesson. You have to sell them on taking the next module and getting results. You keep selling even after you get the money, because if you want your students in a program to get results or coaching or whatever, you can't just sell them on giving you money. You have to sell them on taking action and finishing and consuming your product. So to me, if you can't sell it first, then nobody's going to see your product. So what I do is I create a webinar survey, and I basically say, hey, listen, what do you want to learn? I ask strategic questions. Now, we all know that Russell Brunson's The Perfect Webinar works. That script works, right? We know that. But just like a funnel, just like a script, it's no good if you don't execute it well, right? It's kind of like if 100 people try out for a movie role. How many people get the part? One, right? They all got the same script, but only one gets the part. Why? Because that person did it better. So this is, to me, the art of execution. So you figure out exactly what they want to learn. You ask specific questions that fit right into the perfect webinar, right? So when you take these results, you organize them by top frequency that they respond, and then you just plug that into the perfect webinar. And you cannot have a webinar that doesn't convert if you do that, because you're not writing it. You are not writing your webinar. Your audience is. And to me, that's the easiest way to sell something is you don't write it. You let your audience write it. Okay. And so for me, my big secret to how I was able to do all this so fast is I don't ever, and this is the one key, this is it, this is all it in a nutshell. I do not create marketing to sell a product. I create great marketing and then create a product to live up to that marketing. Because if you do it that way, you can't lose.
Okay, so one of the strategies for selling that you talk about in your 30-day plan is this $1 trial, pay 48 hours later if you liked it. Could you talk a little bit more about how you use this to pre-sell your products on this webinar?
Perfect. Yeah. So that is something. Part of that is something I learned from Russell. It's in .com Secrets. It's I believe it's called the Invisible Funnel, where you charge $1. And then you do the training, and if they like it, they don't do anything, they get charged. If they don't like it, they can email you and cancel. However, I put my own spin on it. And what I did was I said, listen, I've got a program I'm going to sell for $9.97. If you want to get a discount on this, and you want to get in, and I'll not only give you a discount, I'll give it to you for say $4.97, 50% off. But I'll also teach it to you personally. Right? So I've overcome the objection that the course is not ready yet, because I'm saying, well, but I'm going to teach it to you personally through group coaching. So I do that. And then what I do is I say, you have two options. You can pay $1 now. And because let's say just nobody knows you, right? What's better than a refund policy? Try before you buy. So I say, I'm so confident in this that I'm not even going to give you a refund policy. I'm going to let you try before you buy. So you pay $1 today. You'll take the training. 48 hours after the training is complete, so you have to set the date and all that, you'll get charged. And if you don't like it, simply send me an email within 48 hours, let me know, and you will never get charged. If you did enjoy it, then do nothing and you'll get charged. However, there's a second option. If you are 100% in, if you know you are in, if you don't need that, you can buy it right now and you can get an even further discount. I'll give it to you for $2.97. So what happened when I did this was I had a buttload of people pay $2.97 because they were like, no, I'm in, right? So I made a bunch of money up front. And then I had, I think 30% of people take the $1 thing. And so then I got more money on the back end. So I was able to bankroll myself and get money for Facebook ads to do a bigger launch. And I also validated my idea because not only did people take the $1, and then I saw that they didn't cancel. One person canceled because he just didn't have the monies, whatever. But a large portion, the lion's share of them took the $2.97 offer, meaning they had confidence that my product was good. And so I knew, see, here's the beautiful part. I do that webinar and nobody buys. Guess what? I don't have any work to do. I don't have to spend months creating a course, doing slides, all this crap. I don't have to do that. because nobody, so now I can just go back and fix my marketing. So it's beautiful because most people take so long to create their products and they don't validate if it's going to sell or not. And the only way to validate is not to ask people if they would buy it, is to see if you got credit card numbers, period. Okay. So it's a win-win. I either fail and I know I've saved time, I go back and fix my marketing, or I succeed and I see that it's a validated concept. And when I go to launch next time, I feel confident in spending money on ads and taking the time to do it all. So that's how I did it.
Okay, in your 30-day plan, you are doing this live training, fulfilling, the group coaching program you told everyone you would do by day 16. And I want to point this out because there was something interesting that you mentioned in the plan that I think our audience, would be interested in learning. You said one of the things that you would do is on that live coaching session, you would actually bring in students who are watching in that moment onto the video to talk about the training that they're getting in real time, and you would record that testimonial. Could you talk a little bit more about this?
Yes. Let me set the stage for this and why I do this. So first of all, copyright, traditional direct response copywriting is dead. It's dead for two reasons. One, for the most part, it's non-compliant. Most of the old copywriting tricks you can't say on Facebook anymore. You just can't say them. They're not, you get your ad account shut down, right? It's non-compliant. And number two is it's based off of sales. It's based off of salesmanship. Now, I never read any copy books. The closest thing I came to a copy book was Russell's book. And I don't know if I consider that a copywriting book, kind of, but it's not like a copywriting book. And I always focused on this. I said, I could go out and I could spend months or even years learning direct response copy and all this crazy stuff, or I could just spend that time instead getting my students results. I could take those results and market those. And so I call that result stacking. All right. And what I do is this: I get on that initial webinar and I know these people are pumped up, right? So I bring them on at the end and I say, what do you think? On camera, during the group coaching, they rant and rave about how great it is. Now, what that does is that gives me several testimonials that I can then use in my next webinar. And it's immediate social proof. Maybe it's not a specific result because they just took the training. Obviously, they can't have a result yet. It's like 30 seconds after the training. But it still is a social proof testimonial. So I do a webinar. I use that to show that people like my training. Then, a few weeks later or a couple months later or whatever, people start getting massive results in. Then they're happy. I get them to send me those tangible results, and I stack those on top. So I go back, I re-record or redo my webinar, and I stack those. And eventually you end up with, you get rid of, after maybe a year, you don't have any of the original ones left anymore because you don't need them. You have all these super result ones. And so you're able to do your first static launch. When I say static, meaning you're selling a static product, not a coaching program. Because I always believe that you have to do group coaching before you sell something static. That way you validate it, you make sure that your students like it, you make sure that you figure out all the objections so that they get results. It's the only way to do it. And so down the line, you get, it's just you stack. Like currently, we got over 500 video case studies and testimonials on the getclients.com site because I kept doing this. I kept stacking, and I use every opportunity to get more and more testimonials because to me, my copy can be garbage, but if I have 500 video testimonials, I go, look, how do you not buy? Like how do you not buy? And then if someone has an objection, like for instance, if someone has the objection, well, I don't have time to do this because I work a 9 to 5. I don't come up with some old dog copywriting BS. I go find 3 or 4 videos of people that said, I had a 9 to 5. I thought I didn't have time, and look what I did. I just email that out. Like some of my emails are literally just testimonial. And I just call out the objection and say, well, but look at this person. Boom, 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 boom. And I give up the old dog copy techniques, and I just get people results. And I sell millions of dollars of stuff without needing to be a masterful copywriter. So that's why I do it. I use it to get upfront results and then stack.
Okay, so let's talk about what you do after you finish this group coaching program then. You were just mentioning how you have to do the group coaching before you can do a static product. But you were saying in your plan how you would take the 5 to 7 hours of video that you now have from doing this group coaching and divide it up and put it into a membership area. So could you talk a little bit more about how that works?
Right. So what I do is I take a basic outline. And I know this works because I've bought several products. I brought some old Frank Kern products and stuff. I remember there's an old Frank Kern product that he charged like, it was like $5,000 for. And all it was these super ugly slides with bullet points. There was like no pictures, right? And he was just talking over it. And people loved it. And so, I realized this too because, it seems the crappier my slides, the better people learn. I swear to God. One time I redid all of my course materials. It took me 2 months. I filmed it professionally, everything. And then I replaced it in the course and all of my students complained and they said, put back the crappy slides. And I was like, I just wasted all my time. And I put back the crappy slides and it's been that way ever since. So in terms of the group coaching, here's what I do. And this is what I recommend. You do the group coaching. You take your basic outline, which should only take you maybe a day to put together. You get on there and you go through everything and then you answer questions and you teach. If people have, and this is the art of it. Let's say you teach a concept and then somebody has trouble, you see in your group coaching, somebody has trouble understanding it. You immediately reframe and basically on the fly reteach that a different way until they're like, oh, I get it. And you do that several times. And then you go, okay, you pause and you say, so in order to do that, and you just restart on that particular point. And then when your students live on the chat say, oh, I get it now. What you do is you just mark that down. I keep a little notepad just like this, okay, right next to me. And I mark the time. When it's all done, I send it to a video editor. You can find somebody on Fiverr, right? And I have them edit everything into lessons. And if let's say module 2, lesson 4, when I first explained the concept, it was crap and nobody understood it. But the second time I explained it was good. I mark that down and I say, cut out the first one and do the second one. And I just make sure as I'm doing the coaching, I reset and I just go back and I explain it again differently. And sometimes I'll even edit the text right there and then restart. And nobody cares. And so what you end up with is you end up with a course that's awesome because you know it's awesome because if somebody has trouble understanding something, you fix it on the spot. And here's the thing, you can be good at something, but it doesn't mean you're a good teacher, okay? So this is how you become a good teacher on the fly, fast, super fast, boom, 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 go. You don't sit there and read how to be a good teacher books. You just figure it out on the fly. You get direct on-the-go feedback, and you fix it, and you make it awesome. And that's how I get massive, like my students have massive results because I did not give them a product that wasn't tested. Not tested to work, but tested to be understood and work for anyone. And that's how I did it.
Okay, so your procedure makes a lot of sense because you're able to actually create a fantastic static product with customer feedback in real time. After you have these videos and you put them into your membership area, what's the next leg as far as promoting that static product now?
Okay, so because you've proven the concept that your product sells, you know going in that at this point it's going to sell, people want it, it will convert. It's all a matter of optimizing. Right? See, oftentimes people will put together a funnel because there's no funnel for this. This was just like a live with an order page, right? The whole time. So a lot of times people will put together a funnel. They'll create all this copy, all this marketing. They'll even create the product and then they'll launch it and they'll go, all right, let's see what happens. And then it won't convert at all. And they've wasted massive amounts of time. I think that's insane. Okay. So I like to get to a point to where I put my funnel together. I know it's going to convert. It's just a matter of how well it's going to convert. Right. So that's where I begin testing. I do a live webinar and I do the best I can based on the feedback and I see how it goes. And I then, but the thing about it is I don't do too many live because to me, doing constant live webinars is like, let's say you do a big launch, right? And let's say something goes wrong. Well, you're screwed. You can't fix it, right? So if you're doing something automated, if something goes wrong, if something's not working, you can fix it on the fly. Now you've only affected those few people that opted in for that day, not your whole list. Like to give you an example, another trick I do, let's say I'm thinking about launching an offer to my list. Let's say it's a little $47 offer, $199 offer. I will take an ad. I'll run cold traffic to it. I'll exclude anybody that's ever been on my page, been on my list, anything, and I'll test it and I'll see if it converts decent dead cold first. Okay. This is backwards to the way most people do it. Cause like I have a very large email list at this point. Why am I going to send them something and waste that email, that launch? Cause if it converts at 10% to my list, but I quickly tested it and figured it out with cold, then when I email my list, maybe it converts at 20 or 30%. And so my very first webinar that I did, because I did some testing, I ended up converting at 48% for this product, 48%. And the next week I converted at 50%. We did $100,000. We did 48,000 the first webinar, and we did a little over 50 the second webinar. And that's when I knew it was it. Like making 50 grand in a day, like that's when I knew anything was possible. And that's what did it for me.
There's also another tactic that you mentioned in the 30-day plan I wanted to bring up as well, because I thought it was pretty novel, about how you use mob mentality to encourage more enrollments in your course by asking people who've already purchased to post in your free Facebook group about letting them have access to the paid student Facebook group. But I was wondering if you could explain more about that.
So I'm not sure how well this will work anymore, because when people saw me do it, and I also taught it to some of my students, like everybody does it now. So I'm not sure how well it works now. But so have you ever heard of a shrill?
No.
Okay, so a shrill. So this when people hold sales seminars, sometimes they will hire people to come in and pretend to buy whatever the speaker is selling.
Oh, a plant. A plant.
Yeah, I believe they're also called shrills, unless I'm just totally off base on that. But point is, that is illegal, right? And the reason it's illegal is because it works. But I always was fascinated by that mob mentality that happens when you have a plant. So I thought, how can I do this ethically, and how can I do it online? And so what I did was, at the end of my webinar, I said, or during the sales pitch of my webinar, I said, listen, You've bought if you buy, you're gonna get an email with access to the program. But in order to get access to the private Facebook group that comes with the program, I need you to go in my free group, which most of them are going to be in, and I need you to simply say, "Hey Dan, I just bought products. Please add me to the student group." And so what happens is two things. Number one, during the webinar, right, people see this, and so as people start posting, I screen share during the webinar, and I show my free group, and you just start seeing the posts come in, and I'm like, look, because you know how most people are like, oh, John just joined, Tom just joined, and they're full of crap. They're just making names up. That's total BS. Anybody that tells you it's not BS, they're lying to you. It's BS, okay? So I'm like, I don't want it to be BS. I want to be the guy that's like, no, I'm not the BS guy. So I literally show it happening in real time. Everybody freaks out. They're like, oh my God, everybody's joining. And so they join. And then people who, and this happened, this was amazing. People who weren't on the webinar, who were in the group, they're like, what are you guys buying? What course, what webinar? And they're like, dude, you got to buy it. And they're like, okay. And they just go buy it. And like, they didn't even see the webinar. And so it just caused massive mob mentality, which gave me a near 50% conversion rate on my webinar. I had like about 100 people on, and we sold first time we sold 48 spots. Second time we sold 50 spots. I mean, not too many people have a 50% conversion ratio. And it's because I just did all of these things. There was other things I did too, but I did all these things collectively to just make this thing convert as well as possible. And the mob mentality thing was one of them. So it's a super awesome trick again, everybody does it now. So I kind of started that trend. So I don't know how well it works now.
Well, even if that particular strategy isn't as effective as it used to be, I think that the idea is really important for our audience to grasp about authentic proof.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I'm all about authenticity and results. I will tell you, I have tested doing awesome copy versus just sending an email and say, hey, do you think that you don't have time? Well, look at this guy. And that always converts better than the professional copy. And so I'm like, why do I need to get good at copy? I'll just get people results, share those results, and crush it. So that's just my kind of thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Dan, we are reaching the end of our time, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to share with our audience any thoughts you had about the last leg of your 30-day plan, where you build upon your early success to continue bringing enrollments into your course through encore presentations of your webinar or any other strategies that you might be using.
As far as parting words, I would say this. The number one reason, regardless of what you're doing, what you're selling, the number one reason that you don't succeed is 100% discouragement. And I learned this when I worked as a salesperson for a water softener company years ago. I was like 20 years old. And I remember it was a rotating door in the sales floor. And I remember one day I was calling and I was calling and I was calling and I was calling. And my manager says, listen, he says, if you make 100 phone calls, you think you'll get at least one sale? And I said, yeah. He said, so even if you get told no 99 times, you'll still make that one sale, right? So you just gotta do it, right? And so there were days where I would make a sale within 10 calls, but then there were stretches of days, if not a week or two, where I would get to call 70, call 80, call 90, and I wouldn't make a sale. And what it does to you mentally when you get told no 60, 70, 80 times, by the time you get to the guy that's ready to tell you yes, you're physically and mentally exhausted. And so to me, I structure my life around an environment of constant encouragement, right? I don't accept discouragement. So I will not spend months creating a product, hoping it'll sell, not making any money for months, and discouraging myself. I will make sure that I get small wins. I'll make sure that I get a pre-sale. I'll make sure that I, get this. I'll make sure that I get testimonials from myself. I'll make sure I constantly feed myself with encouragement. And this is also how I teach as well, so that my students get results along the way, so they're encouraged, so they finish the program. But I'm saying I constantly set it up where I get little bits of wins, small wins along the way to keep me encouraged, because the number one killer of any entrepreneur is discouragement. If you structure your business to where you can become discouraged, you will fail. All right. Human beings are meant to be treated with encouragement, love, and affection. We're human beings. If you can't just stick it out. If you are, then you're an anomaly. But for most people, you need constant feeding of encouragement. It shows you that it's possible, and it gives you the belief that you can do it. Right. The day I made a few grand selling my beta, it gave me belief that I could spend the next month creating the live launch. When I made 50 grand in a day, it gave me the belief that I could turn this into $1 million product. And now I have a multi-million-dollar product, and that gives me the belief that I can get to 8 figures, which I'm going to. So if I did not have that belief, I could take the same steps and they would suck. I wouldn't execute as well. You have to have the belief, so you have to set it up where you get small wins along the way to keep yourself encouraged.
Fantastic advice, Dan. Thanks so much for that. For those of you watching at home who have loved learning from Dan and all of the other summit speakers being featured so far, and you are thinking about crafting your own personalized and customized 30-day journey to success, I have good news for you. Click the button on this page to learn more about the One Funnel Away Challenge, where you can craft that customized and personalized 30-day plan with the help and guidance of a 2 Comma Club coach. But in addition, you're also going to have an awesome opportunity to snag some incredible bonuses, including a physical copy of the 30 Days book, where we've put together and bound all of the 30-day plans from all of these 32 Comma Club winners featured on this summit, plus unlimited access to the video that you just watched of Dan, and of course all of the other speakers on the 30 Days Summit, and my personal favorite part of this entire program, a second interview with every single speaker, where I'm actually going behind the scenes with them, and they're showing me via screen share how it is that they have set up their award-winning 2 Comma Club funnels. The value in those videos is absolutely out of this world and something you do not want to miss. So make sure that you click the button on this page in order to learn more and upgrade to join the One Funnel Away Challenge. And Dan, one more time, thank you so much for being a part of this summit. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Glad to be here.